But monotheism is only a way station on the road to mysticism.
Right.
But instead of going toward mysticism, we went to sectarian warfare. And there are now 4,300 different religions on planet Earth right now. And so what's happened is this extraordinary fragmentation. And it's a fragmentation occasioned by kind of institutionalization of the individual journey to source. Every single one of us should be responsible for developing a personal cosmology. All the great teachers tell us that. Gautama Siddhartha would say, I am Buddha, I am awake. Socrates would say, the unexamined life is not worth living. Jesus would say, if the householder knew when the thief was going to break in and steal, he wouldn't go to sleep. So it's all about waking up. But most of us are living cosmologies that have been imprinted on us, like on wet cement up to age 7. And so we behave in ways that we've been programmed to behave, and we're not thinking for ourselves.
Right.
So in any situation we find ourselves, we're going to respond from an unconsciously acquired and an unconsciously accessed personal cosmology. So I keep telling my community again and again and again, your primary duty is to create a personal cosmology. And it should do 4 things for you. It should stretch you, but it should make your heart sing. It should be able to accommodate all your own unique experiences of life. And you have to keep upgrading it again and again and again from day to day, because you're a unique human being. And so it's like when you apply the scientific method to mysticism, it's exactly the same thing. The scientific method, whether you're studying geology or mathematics or physics or whatever, goes through the following stages. You start off by making observations in your field, whatever your field happens to be. You collect your data. You begin to see possible patterns in your data. That creates a hypothesis to explain the possible pattern. Now you've got to test that. You've got to empirically test that. So you set up an experiment to test if the hypothesis explains the putative pattern. If it does, it has to be replicated by somebody else to make sure it wasn't a statistical aberration. If the other person says, yeah, we got the same results, now you have a principle established in the field. Now, a bunch of principles create a model of the field, but inevitably there will be new anomalous data present themselves, and now you have to tweak the old model to accommodate the new kind of data. And at some stage, so many anomalous data points present themselves, you can't squeeze them in no matter what you do to the old model. You've got to dismantle the old model and build a brand new model that can contain all the old data and all the new data. And we did that twice in the 20th century, with relativity theory in 1905 and quantum mechanics in 1920. Now, the mystics have been doing that for thousands of years. You look at your data, you collect them, you see a pattern, you create a hypothesis, you test it by looking at other mystics. I'm doing this, I'm meditating, spending time in nature, whatever. Are you getting the same results? Yeah, I'm getting the same results. You establish a principle, and a bunch of principles lead to a kind of a metaphysical or a mystical model. And then as new experiences come in, you try initially to fit them into the old model, and they won't work. At some stage, you have to create a new model. And so people have to be encouraged to constantly upgrade their models of reality and their knowledge of religion. But instead of that, there's the fundamentalist mindset: shut them down, don't let them think. Here's the truth. You're going to go to hell if you don't accept my version of the truth. I know there are 4,300 versions of the truth.
Oh boy, okay. That's a lot. So our own personal cosmology is essential. Don't try to fit a new cosmology with an old one. It's not going to work. So Paul, I'm going to ask this. You can comment on that, but I want to go ahead and forward it at this point too. And that is, I want to get back to the monotheism point, because there are different types of monotheism. One of them is an angry God that says, obey me or I will squash you like a bug. When you're talking about Akhenaten's time, when he was introducing it, you're talking about a recognition of the cosmos and the life-giving force of the sun. These are slightly different ways of viewing monotheism and devotion, if you want to call it that. So we can get into that in a bit here if you like. But what you just said, instead of keeping people small, reinforcing these same dour views of what these institutions stand for and what God is, I think a lot of people that watch these shows are wondering, are some of the same entities or tribes of entities that were here that created these stories of the Old Testament still interfering in our understanding of ourselves at the very top of all of the systems and institutions today? Is their hand still present, trying to suppress human spirit, curiosity, and genius?
Take it away, Paul.
I'd love. All right, I'm going to get onto that question, but I do want to comment on what Sean just said, because I can illustrate that wonderful picture that Sean painted at an individual level.
Yes.
Because I think if you've come out of a coherent sort of religious worldview, then that can just leave you bereft and depressed and living in a world where you're overscheduled, distressed, there's no support, there's no assistance, and that might be balanced by keeping yourself, entertained in the evenings, and that's how you move forward. Except I find, if I can ask anybody, have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? Everyone has a story. And if I ask something even more specific, have you ever experienced like a flash of a higher cognitive power? Well, actually, yes, I had a flash of remote viewing. I had a flash of telepathic connection. And then very often with coaching clients, I'll say, I'm beginning to believe that each one of us has an invisible support cloud of helpers. I've yet to have someone not say, I'm coming to believe that as well. and that hasn't come from their religious beliefs, it's coming from their experience. And so with questions like that, I'm asking them to notice the anomalies that don't fit their old worldview, that don't fit their rejected worldview, and that point to the need for a new worldview. And as you join the dots between your anomalous experiences and those of the person you're speaking to, and those of your friends, a new worldview does form, one in which we are not alone, one in which there is a universe of resources available to you. And it is such an easy journey when you do it piece by piece in that way. These experiences really chip away at the foundations of the old damaging mindset that's been so enslaving. So I feel very optimistic about people finding that new worldview in the way Sean was describing.
Yes.